Hi everyone, welcome back again to my YouTube channel. My name is Trouser. If today is your first time seeing me, thank you so much for being here. Hit on the subscribe button if you're still here to subscribe to my channel. Turn on notification bell so that you're the first to know whenever I post my sewing tutorials and pattern drafting videos. In today's video, I am going to be collaborating with another Abuja-based YouTuber called Lumsy Sews. She makes sewing tutorial videos and pattern drafting tutorials as well, and we came together on this particular video and we are going to be doing it together. So I am going to be drafting the pattern for the making of this bootcut trouser, and she's going to be the one to make the sewing tutorial. So I'll be leaving the link to her channel in the description box of this video so that you guys can go ahead and watch the sewing part of this particular tutorial. With that being said, let's get started with this video. So guys, during the course of this collaboration, you guys are going to be seeing two different ways of going about cutting out your bootcut trouser. The one I'm going to be sharing with you guys now is going to be the one you draft from scratch to finish, while Lumsy will be sharing with you guys how to transform a basic trouser pattern into a bootcut pattern. I'm also going to be leaving the link to a basic trouser pattern that I've made in the past down in the description box, because that is the pattern she's going to be using as well. So she's going to be showing you guys how to transform that basic trouser pattern into a bootcut pattern using slash and spread method. So you definitely want to check out our channel, because she'll also be showing you guys how to sew the trouser as well. So let's go ahead and draft out our own pattern here. So first, I'm drawing straight lines across the top and also across one side, as you can see. So this area here is going to serve as the waist for this trouser, so I'll just label it waist here, okay? And this other side will serve as the length of the trouser. So from the line I drew at the waist, I am extending my tape by 1.5 inch because that's how wide I want my band to be. So now I'm going to mark my waist to hip line. So for me, waist to hip is 8 inches. For people who are a little bit taller, you can use 9 inches, but for most people, 8 inches work. So I'm also going to still mark the 8 inches here, making sure that I still extend my tape from that line by 1.5 inch. So first line here I'm drawing out is the waist to hip line. So this is my hip line. I will label it here hip line. So now, still extending the tape by 1.5 inch at the top, I'm going to measure down to my crouch line. So for me, my crouch line is 10 inches. I'm going to also go ahead and draw a straight line across this point. The picture on the screen shows you exactly how to get your own crouch line measurement. So I'm going to label this the crouch line, okay? So now for us to get our tie line, from the crouch line, you can come down by 3 or 4 inches. That is usually going to give you your tie line. So I'm just going to be using 3 inches here, okay? And I'm also going to draw a straight line across and label this the tie line. Still making sure that I extend my tape by 1.5 inch at the top. I'm going to measure down from my waist to my knee, which is 22 inches. Okay, I'm going to also go ahead and draw a straight line across this point. This is going to be my knee line. So now from the waist again, just like I've been extending my tape, I'm going to measure down to the length I want this trouser to be, which is 40 inches. You can see that I actually had to join my pattern paper here because it's not long enough. So this is the length of the trouser. I also went ahead to draw a straight line across. So I have the waist, I have the hip line, the crotch line, the tie line, knee line, and finally I have the length of the trouser, that's the hemline. Okay, so what we are going to do now is on the hip line, I am going to go ahead and divide my hip measurement by 4, and I'm going to make a point here. I'll also be making a point on the crotch line and on the waistline. I am taking all my measurement from the first line I drew across the side of the pattern paper, okay? So now I'm going to be connecting the point from the waist to the hip and to the crotch all together with a straight line. So guys, on the waistline here, from this point, I'm going to mark my waist measurement divided by 4. So from here, my waist measurement divided by 4 is 6. Okay, I'm going to be marking it here. So I'll mark it here. And from this point, I'm going to be adding an extra 1 inch for my dart. And then from this second point, I'm going to be drawing a curve to meet the hip line. So I'll be using my curve here. So after drawing this out, the next thing you're going to do is to come to the crotch line here. And you're going to measure from this point to this point. So from here to this point here, I'm going to measure what I have and whatever you have there, go ahead and divide it into 4. Make sure you take that measurement on the crouch line and divide what you have there into 4. So whatever you get after that division, you're going to mark it outside of the crouch line, just like I'm doing here. So we are now going to create a curve from this place. So I'm going to be using my armhole curve for this. So from this point here, I'll just connect it into the hip and just get a curve like this to meet the hip line. So just like this. So this way you have drawn out the crouch curve. Next, you are going to take a measurement from this point to this point here and divide what you have there into 2 equal halves. So I had about 11.5. So I'll just use my tape now to divide it into 2. So that way I'm trying to get the middle of this trouser. So I just made a point here. So from this new point, I'll just take a measurement to the side. And I'll just use this measurement to draw on the waistline. Use it to also draw on the knee line. I'm just trying to use this measurement now to just get a straight line so that we'll know exactly where the center of this trouser is. So I also marked it on the length of the trouser, and I'm just going to go ahead and use my ruler to connect all the points together into a straight line. So now we've gotten the center of this trouser. We are now going to be adding our body measurements to it. So now we'll be starting with the thigh line. So the measurement around my thigh is 22 inches. And 22 inches divided by 4. Okay. Divided by 4 is 5.5. So from this center line here, I'll mark that 5.5 to this side. And mark the 5.5 to this other side as well. I hope you guys understand. Now next, the knee line. The measurement around my knee, my round knee measurement is 15 inches. So just like we did on the thigh line, I'm also going to be dividing that 15 inches into 4. So which is what I've done here. So from the center line, I'll mark it here towards this side and mark it as well towards this other side as well. Okay, so we'll now be connecting all these points now to give us the trouser shape. So first I'll be connecting from the crouch line to the thigh line. Notice the way I'm placing my curve. So from the crouch to the thigh here, I'll connect. Okay, now from the thigh line, I'm going to connect another curve to meet the knee line. So just like I'm doing like this, and I'm just going to smoothen it up here on the thigh line. I tried to smoothen it up, but it was now looking rough. But look at what it's supposed to look like here. Now on the hip line, from the hip line, I'm going to connect a curve to meet the point I have also on the thigh line here. And from the thigh line, I'll connect another curve to meet the one on the knee line. Notice how I also placed my curve on this other side as well. So now for the last part, which is the part I labeled L, which is the hemline, I want the end to be 22 inches wide. Now you can make yours as wide as you want it to be. So whatever measurement you decide to use, go ahead and also divide it into 4. So I divided my 22 inches into 4, and I'm also going to be sharing that measurement on both sides of the center line, which is what I've done here. So we'll be connecting now from the knee line to meet these new points that I just got on the length of the trouser. So I'm going to be using my straight ruler. Try as much as possible to make sure that it's straight. And when you're actually joining this together, joining these points, you will notice that the bottom of the trouser actually opens up, and the more open you want it to be, the more inches you're going to use at the end. Like I told you guys, I used 22 inches. So Lumsy is going to be showing you guys how to go about this with the slash and spread method, which is another method I really love to use, because that way you can easily just change your normal trouser into a bootcut trouser without having to cut out a new pattern paper like I've done here. So you definitely will need to check out that video. So guys, the last thing I'm going to be doing here on this front pattern is from the waist here, from the center, I am going to come down by ½ an inch. You can also use 1 inch if you want to. So I'm going to be connecting from this ½ inch point to meet my waist. This is something I normally do even for my skirts, because it makes it look very nicely by the time you're done. So this upper part is going to be cut off. Don't worry, the ½ inch we've cut away, we are going to be replacing it on the back, so you don't have to worry about it. So now the next thing we are going to go ahead and do is to cut out this front piece.
So many times that I miss you.
So now this is the front. We are going to be using the front pattern now to cut out the back. So I've pinned the front pattern on another piece of pattern paper. Make sure that the second piece of pattern paper you have is wider than the front, and make sure that you have enough space on both ends. The space on the crotch area should be more than the one on this side, just like I've arranged my own right now. So now from the crotch line in front, you are going to come out by 2 inches and mark it into the new pattern paper. So from the crotch line, come out by 2 inches, and from the waistline, go up by 1.5 inches. Remember I told you guys that the 1 inches you are removing from the front is going to be replaced, right? You can even go up here from the waist by 2 inches. It depends on how curvy you are. Then after that, you're going to come to the hip line here, and you're going to come out by about 1.5 inch. You can see how I'm doing it slanted. It's not like coming out straight, it's slanted a little bit. So from the crotch line, come out by 2 inches. From the waist, go up by 1.5 inch. From the hip, come out by 1.5 inch. So I am going to connect all these points together now to give me a crouch curve for the back. You will notice that the crouch curve for the back is not as curvy as the way the front is. It's fine. This is how it's supposed to look. Now from the waist here at the back, I'm going to connect down to meet the waist in front, which is what I've done here. Do exactly as you see me doing, like this. And then from the front pattern paper here on the tie line, I'm going to come out and mark 2 inches into the new pattern paper. I'll come to the knee line, mark 2 inches as well, and also at the end of the trouser I'll mark 2 inches as well. So I'm going to join all these points together. Make sure to also look at the way I'm arranging my curve as I'm joining these points together. So I'll connect from the crouch to the tie first, then I'll connect from the tie to the knee, and then from the knee to the end of the trouser. Now for this particular pattern, you notice that I added the whole 2 inches to the center part of this trouser. Some people actually add 1 inch to both sides, so you'll be giving 1 inch to the center part, which is this area I'm working on, and 1 inch to the side. So what I'm doing here is I added all the 2 inches to the center, so I'm not going to be adding any more inches to the side of the trouser. So at the end here, I'll just trace out what I have exactly on the front pattern into the end. And like I said, I'm not adding any extra inches to the side, so I will just trace the front side pattern as it is like this into the back. So just like I'm doing here, don't add any extra allowances, just trace it as it is into the back. And I'm going to label this the front, and then remove the pins and label the back as well. So it's actually very easy to differentiate the front and back. So this is what I have here. So I'm going to also go ahead and cut out this back pattern. So this is all for the drafting of this pattern. If you find it a little bit stressful, you don't understand what I was doing here, trust me, you need to see Lumsy's video, because she's going to be sharing with you how to use your normal trouser pattern to just slash and spread and get your boot cut without all these plenty calculations. So you definitely need to go ahead and check out that video. So I'll be linking it down in the description box. That's also where she'll be showing you guys how to cut this pattern into fabric and how to sew it together. So check out the description box for the link to the sewing video, and I'll be seeing you guys in my next one. Bye.